Have you ever thought about moving to South America? If you have, watch this video and you'll know some places you should probably avoid. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the World According to Briggs and a video on where not to live in South America. South America, in my opinion, is a very beautiful place. There's no denying that. We got mountains, jungles, rivers, amazing beaches, and friendly people. Let me change that a little bit. The friendly people, I would say, are about 70%. 20% are neutral and don't care, and about 10% actually hate you for being American. That's just a sad fact. There's always that 10%. But more and more Americans are moving down to South America every single year. And I want you to know where not to live. All right, let's see where not to live in South America. Number 10, La Paz, Bolivia. With about 2 million residents as of 2020, La Paz is the third most populous city in Bolivia. Its metro area makes up the second most populous urban area in the country. This place is short on healthcare, money, walls without graffiti, and safe places to live. What they aren't short on is bricks, stray dogs, and political protests that often turn violent. Yeah, for some reason, if you look on Google Street View, all over this city, it's every single block. It almost looks like a maze because everyone has like 7-foot tall walls surrounding their property. It's weird. And La Paz has the weirdest prison on the planet. It's kind of a strange place to live. And I say live because that's what people are doing there. It's more of a small city that's actually in a prison. This place has like kids playing there. They've got schools. They've got animals sleeping under tables. People shining shoes, women cooking over a gas stove. Inmates run the prison, and new inmates are required to buy their own cells, which no two cells are the same. They can get very pricey, so it's almost like you're buying a condo and you gotta pay someone to get your cell. It's just weird. Extremely wealthy inmates, such as politicians or infamous drug traffickers or something like that, they'll build their own nice, sweet prison cell, you know? And I say sweet as in the type of place you stay, not like, ooh, dude, sweet prison cell. One guy actually built his own one, included cable and a jacuzzi. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. The air in La Paz is so thin that your lungs won't really have a clue what's going on at first. It's located 13,000 feet above sea level, and it's the highest national capital in the world. Now, here's something to look forward to. Police officers are extremely corrupt. They often dress in regular clothing so they could pickpocket you. And then when you complain that someone pickpocketed you, you go tell a police officer, he's all, oh yeah, that's like my friend, I'm not going to arrest him. So La Paz isn't a place you really want to move to. Number 9, Caracas, Venezuela. Caracas was founded in 1567 by a dude named Diego. In the subsequent 454 years, it's gone downhill, consistently, like every single year. A little over 2 million people call Caracas home, and most of those people hate living there. Why? Because it sucks. You know your city blows when the Google Street View car hasn't bothered to go there. They haven't. A poor political and economic climate in Venezuela has led to widespread violence. In Caracas, the military actually assigns people days they're allowed to put gas in their car, according to the last number on your license plate. Yeah, now they produce a lot of oil, but they still don't have enough gas for people. It's weird. But you can actually bribe someone $100 to fill your tank for you at any given day. Inflation is crazy here. President Nicolas Maduro's grand plan to fix this situation was to rework the currency and lop off 5 zeros off it. He says it'll change the economy, monetary life in a radical way. That's what he said. This guy's a piece of work. So everyone's starving, everyone has problems, they got all these major things. He put out a video of his family eating dinner with butlers and him smoking big cigars. It was just weird, and it did nothing but anger more people. With a collapsing economy, people have started to trade goods for services instead of money. It is hot and humid in Caracas almost all the time. There's no running water in a lot of buildings. People have to collect water when it comes trickling down the pipes, and others have actually dug their own well in the city. Yeah, it's not a place you want to be hanging out or even think about moving to. Number 8, Valencia, Venezuela. Not too far from Caracas, you have Valencia. Valencia is the third largest city in Venezuela. The city is the economic hub that contains Venezuela's top industries and manufacturing companies. The population is almost 2 million in the metro area, and the city of Valencia has a little over 800,000. So the place has some folks. It's no small town. The crime rate here has increased over the years due to extreme economic hardship and the political instability we've been talking about in Caracas. Robbery, kidnapping, and all forms of assault occur here on a high rate. My favorite is how tourists often report being robbed by the police at bus stations. Yeah, the police are ripping you off, but really, they do that in Mexico too. They pull you over, say you gotta come back to the police station for a ticket, instead of giving you one right there. But if you give them $100, the ticket's taken care of. Environmental issues, including sewage pollution in Valencia Lake, oil and urban pollution. The place is just nasty. Deforestation, soil degradation. It's kind of a nightmare. Not just the people, the crime and all that, and the poverty. The land around it is just getting trashed. Venezuela's state-run economic model wasted the world's largest oil reserve. Yeah, it was all because of corruption and they did stupid things. The country currently owes $100 billion to foreign creditors, and a lot of that has to do with just the corrupt political system they have there. Venezuela's crisis has been marked by corruption, hyperinflation, and one of the world's highest homicide rates, along with food and medicine shortages. You know, all the good things that go into a really crappy country. But Valencia itself is just falling in step with the rest of Venezuela, just a nightmare and just falling apart. And it's gonna get nothing but worse in the coming years. Don't move here. Number 7, Natal, Brazil. Here's the good. They have beautiful people and stunning coastline. This is a tourist destination, even though it has an ever-climbing crime rate. The tourist areas look nice and they're fun. Go into the neighborhoods and you'll see the real Natal. They have a high crime rate right now with all forms of assault, carjacking, and murders. This has led the police to adopting a shoot first, ask questions later type community policing policy. Yeah, it's that bad. Poverty is one of the main reasons for the increase in crime. It's getting pretty bad here. They have a population of about 763,000. They've had a slow economic growth, and where it is growing, it's kind of not equal. They're in sort of a situation where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting extremely poor in Natal. Now, there are other places in Brazil that are much more dangerous, the slums of Rio and things like that. This is just one I put in here because it's getting worse and not a lot of people realize it. They're still looking at this as a place to visit, become a tourist, or maybe even live there, you know? It's weird. Number 6, Santiago, Chile. First things first, I don't advise breathing in Santiago, Chile, ever. Santiago is one of the worst places on the planet for air quality. Invest in some of those masks, not the ones we've been using for COVID, but those ones you see the military use, or you move into the hills, one or the other. Groceries are limited and or are expensive. You'll find yourself often in physical conflict for the last loaf of bread at a store. Chile's had some serious food shortage issues in the last few years, and even more so last year during the whole COVID lockdown thing. It got really bad. They had protests in a lot of the poor neighborhoods. The crime here isn't that bad compared to others on this list, but you'll still have old school purse snatchers and pickpockets here. Number 5, Medellin, Colombia. Medellin is most famous for Pablo Escobar. If you don't know him, he was the biggest supplier of, let's call them, street pharmaceuticals back in the day. He was eventually killed by government forces. In Medellin, he is considered to be a hero and a role model. They've even created Pablo Escobar tours. And no, it's not like wine tasting. You don't get to sample any of his product. Anything you can imagine would catch you a felony here in the United States happens in broad daylight in some parts of Medellin, like in the open, right out in front of everyone. Getting robbed here is unfortunately very common, and it's often from dudes on motorcycles. Driving here is just straight up dangerous because of how aggressive the drivers are, and they have no courtesy whatsoever. If you're walking across the street, they won't even slow down. They'll hit you. To be fair, they do have some nice looking parts of the city. It's just too bad a large majority of this city is a frickin' nightmare. Medellin is one of the plastic surgery capitals of the world, and the most common surgery here? Butt implants. Yeah, butt implants. The pollution is so bad in Medellin that sometimes you can look outside and not even see the other end of the valley, which is very common in Los Angeles, but I guess it's pretty bad here too, or even worse. It's actually advised not to be doing physical exercise. They actually tell people, don't do any exercise today, the air is too bad. That sucks. Then the trash on the streets. I mean, look at Google Street View. You just go up and down any place and there's just piles of trash everywhere. Granted, there are some nice areas, like I said, and the trash may not be as bad there, but some of the other neighborhoods, yeah, it's just piled high. Number 4, Huliaka, Peru. Huliaka is a city with a little over 275,000 residents near Lake Titicaca at about 12,000 feet above sea level, so the air's kind of thin here. Much like La Paz, poverty rules this city, not just the people. The city is poor. Over half the streets are dirt, and from what I can tell, this city of 275,000 doesn't own a trash truck. The place is filled with smugglers, from street pharmaceuticals to household appliances to gold. It's estimated that about 60% of the people here are involved in some form of trafficking. The air quality is shot. Poverty is an extreme issue. Like Chicago, they actually call it the Windy City because they get a lot of wind here. Chicago, they call it because of hot air coming out of politicians back in the day. This place actually gets wind, and they call it the Windy City. If you do end up here as a tourist or for some unknown reason decide you want to live here, they recommend you don't go out at night. Yeah, or venture into most of the city. There's just a few areas you can go and feel relatively safe. Number 3, Guayaquil, Ecuador. Guayaquil gets on this list for 2 main reasons: water quality and air quality. Don't get me wrong, they have a laundry list of reasons not to move here, but those 2 are epically bad. Never, I say never, drink the tap water here. It is contaminated with bacteria, it'll make you sick, and possibly eat your brain. Fruit juices are often mixed with water, milk is usually unpasteurized, and ice is also made with tap water. So if you ask for a drink, ask for it with no ice. And invest in some anti-diarrhea medicine if you plan to visit or stay long. The air quality here rivals that of a coal mine that's been on fire for a week or two, and they have trash piled up in the center dividers of the streets in the non-tourist areas. The tourist areas are pretty nice, don't get me wrong. They put on a good show. Get outside the tourist area and it's a different story. I mean, that is true with almost every city on the planet, but this one steps it up a notch. Some vaccinations that are recommended, although not required, are Hepa A, yellow fever, Hep B shots, and you also run the risk of getting malaria every single day you're there, so keep that in mind. Now here's another good piece of news for this place. Guayaquil has a history of kidnappings from this area. So you go for a nice hike, next thing you know, you're stuck in a little camp in the middle of the jungle and they're asking your parents for $50,000. The weather here is not spring-like. You might think it's going to be because it's, South America. Might be warm. Nah, this place has never-ending rain some people complain about, and it's in the low 30s at night. Don't forget there's no central heating to any of the homes here. Number 2, Buenaventura, Colombia. The city was founded on July 14th, 1540 by a dude named Juan. At the time, it was inhabited by an indigenous tribe. For around 50 years or so, it continued to grow and became somewhat of a landing spot for ships going up the west coast of the Americas. At some point, the local indigenous people decided they were sick of the Europeans and tried to evict them, and they destroyed the city sometime around 1600. These days, it's the largest port city in Colombia. This port brings in more revenue than any other city in the country, but about 2/3 of the population are still living in extreme poverty. Drug trafficking rules this city, often threatening civilians that oppose them, and everyone's afraid to turn them in or anything like that. So they have free reign on the city. I don't know if you'd want to have free reign on this city. I mean, few people have access to clean drinking water. Many people live in shacks on stilts over the sea, and the only public hospital here lacks most equipment. It has hardly anything. Go there and get a bandage and a couple aspirin. The 4 previous mayors are in prison, or at least were in prison at some point. While most of Colombia is kind of getting his act together and be more friendly for tourism, this one is something you should not even go near. Their violence is getting worse. Back in 2014, Vice, the YouTube channel, and I know they're on HBO too, but anyway, it's a website. They did a thing on them, and someone was hacking up bodies back then. Like 26 people at that point had been found dismembered and thrown on the side of the road and stuff. It's a pretty scary place. You should never go here. Before we get to number 1, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And also, if you hit that little bell thing, it notifies you when we upload a new video. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Paramaribo, Suriname. Paramaribo is really hard to say, first of all, and I'm sure I said it wrong, but it's the capital and largest city in Suriname. If you don't know where this country is, it's on the Atlantic side of South America, north of Brazil. Besides nobody knowing where this place is, it isn't for people that really want a vacation or a place to live that has tropical beaches and it's, taking it easy. This place is kind of rough and their beaches suck. One of the biggest problems with living here is everyone says it's the corruption. It's so bad that their former president was charged with murder in January of 2020 after he executed 15 activists. Yeah, that's great. He was also found guilty of drug smuggling in 1999 and sentenced to 11 years and still became the president. Suriname's economy crumbled under him and really put the country in bad shape. A couple things you should know about the place. A, water. Always an issue with places like this. Don't drink the water here. And there really isn't a dry season. It rains throughout the year here. A yellow fever vaccination is required here, and a hepatitis A vaccination is recommended. It gets worse. Almost 3% of the adults living in Suriname have HIV or AIDS. That's 1 in 47 adults, which is 4 times higher than the US. And that's going by 2018 numbers. If they change it a little bit, who knows? Now, this is the best piece of advice I read over and over on different websites about living here. Avoid walking downtown in Paramaribo and the Palm Garden after dark. Criminals often target foreigners here, and it can get pretty bad. It's also recommended that you don't use your debit or credit cards here. Use prepaid cards only because they have a high frequency of identity theft here. All right, that is 10 places you should not live in South America. Hope that helped someone. Hope you got some information out of it. Don't forget all the links below. Like I said, everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.